afternoon, Under the Willow School families and community. This week's video is going to be, I'm going to have a little tip for the week each week and a little craft for the week for the remaining time that we're kind of isolated from each other. So in this time when we're kind of all at home, and some of you might be homeschooling and working from home and having little ones at home, it's a whole new world, a whole new rhythm. So I feel like it's very important to really practice self-care. So what does that look like? Well, maybe taking care of yourself in the ways of help, whatever restores you. What do you do to restore? So what does that look like? Maybe you want to read a book that you haven't read in a long time. Maybe you want to do a little yoga or meditation. Promise yourself that you'll take yourself on a walk once a day. Whatever you can do to restore yourself. Because when we as caregivers, mommies and daddies and grandparents and teachers, we give and give, and it's sort of like a bank. So if the bank is empty, there's no money coming out. So we have to restore ourselves and to fill things up again so that we can give to the ones that we love. And especially in times like this, some of us are under very challenging times. Some of us are feeling very gifted by all of this and feeling like we can have time now that we haven't had before. And so if we don't watch what's going on in the outside world, it's a blessing. So whatever your situation is, it's still important to take advantage of this time and to also think about self-care and what does that do to restore us. So today I'd like to show you a little bit of how we colored Easter eggs in the kindergarten. And I know you probably don't have this laying about the house, but you might. The first thing we'll need is some fancy bleeding tissue paper that we cut into squares. And it's different than regular tissue paper. Regular tissue paper used to be bleeding by accident. You would get it wet and it would get your gift wet. But over the years, they have made tissue paper color fast. So now you have to order something called fancy bleeding tissue paper that will actually bleed color onto whatever you're working with. So it's mostly, you can order it through the craft stores, online. I order it for the kindergarten each year, and I have a quantity to use at different times throughout the year with our different crafts. And at Easter time, it's perfect for coloring our eggs. So I usually have brown eggs at home, but I got some white eggs to boil. These are hard boiled. You can also blow them, it takes a lot of time, but we have a lot of time now. So to blow an egg, you take a raw egg and you stick a pin in it, a needle actually, in both ends, and you just blow the yolk out of it, shake it a little bit, blow it, keep blowing it until there's nothing left inside. And then you dip it in some water, let it soak around in some water with white vinegar, because we don't want to have a smelly, how eggs can smell so badly. So we'll do that and let it sit on a paper towel for a few days, and that will get your the smell out and make the egg nice and fresh, and you can keep them for a very long time. But in the kindergarten here with our little ones, they also are very fragile, so they can easily be crunched by accident, and then we're very sad when we have our hard work that we have done is broken. So for our purposes, we hard boil them. So all you really need is a white egg. I have a sponge here, on a wet sponge on a plate, and I just take the tissue paper and I blot it down onto the sponge. You're gonna get your fingers all colorful because, again, this is bleeding tissue paper, but that's just what we want. And then the children are gonna delight in just patting it down onto the egg. And you can see that when it's wet, it will stick very nicely. So just layer colors a little bit like a watercolor painting. or a veil painting where you just, or a mosaic, just keep layering the colors onto the egg, patting it down. Another piece of tissue paper, getting it wet, layering it and layering it. And you can layer as much as you'd like. I think I might do one more piece just to make sure. So my wet tissue paper, just putting it on the egg. And it already looks very beautiful if you can see the beautiful colors that it has on it. I'm just going to give it a little squeeze and make sure that all that colorful wet tissue is lying against my egg. And now this is the part where we have to be patient, which is so hard sometimes for our little friends, but it's a good practice. So I have a little cardboard carton that we would just stick our eggs in all along, and we would wait a day or so, maybe the next day we would peel it off, and that's really a magical, exciting time when you have your egg and you just peel those colors off, and all of a sudden you get to see all that beautiful work that you did. I hope you can see this. It's a little modeled, kind of like a tie-dye egg. I had done this one earlier this morning actually, and I think it would have gotten more deep colors on it if I had let it sit longer and not brushed it to dry. So a good rule of thumb is to kind of do it one day and overnight, let it sit to dry, and then the next day the children can peel off the tissue and you have your beautiful Easter egg. So that is my little tip and craft for the week. I want to also, I have a little puppet play that I always did for my parent-child families, and it's very sweet. It can be done at home very simply. Mommies and daddies can learn it pretty quickly. You just need a cloth for your arm, and I have a sweet little puppet that I made years ago, but your puppet can be like this. So I'll do it and sing it for you. And even, this is best for the littlest ones, but even our bigger ones, I would often just do it as a little extra story during the week of Easter, and they still would delight in this puppet play. Lippity-lop, lippity-lop, here comes the bunny, hippity-hop, with ears so tall and tail so small, lippity-lippity-lop. He sits up straight and wiggles his ears at every sound he hears, then scampers away as fast as he can and suddenly disappears. Oh, lippity-lop, lippity-lop, here comes the bunny, hippity-hop, with ears so tall and tail so small, lippity-lippity-lop, kerplop. Snip, snap, snout, his tail is told out. I'm wishing everyone a happy spring, happy Easter, happy Passover.